Isla Wright has been recently buffed, making her an even more powerful support than before, and with her buffs is perfect for the Dark team. But also another way that Isla can support the Dark team is also going to be by equipping her very best artifact sets, and that is going to be utilizing the Forcer effect of the Guardian and also Sylph's Blessing artifact set bonus. Because what Guardian does very well is it can increase the shield effect that Isla can apply to herself and her whole entire team by 30%, so very good. And on top of that, when any of your team members do actually have a shield activated on them, they can also receive a 10% damage increase, which is very powerful. And on top of that, when it comes to Sylph's Blessing, this can in total increase your whole entire team's elemental weakness damage by up to 15% for a whole entire minute, and is something that you can pretty much have a 100% uptime on. However, if you are ever going to take her into an endgame piece of content where you do need a huge amount of total power, then you can either just use the 8 set effect bonus of Burning Blessing or Chaotic Wish in order to get that extra total power. After that, we of course now have to talk about all of your Isla's best main artifact stats, and starting off with her helmet, her body armor, and her ring, you'll want to go for additional defense as the best main stat overall, but you can also go for defense percent if it is your only option. But as for the final two most important main stats, these are going to be for your bracelets and also your boots. When it does come to your boot main stat, you don't really want anything like crit damage or defense penetration because she's not really a DPS based character, and instead you are going to want to go for defense percent in order to make her shields and also healing to be much greater. And finally, for the bracelet main stat, you'll just want to go for dark damage percent because of very obvious reasons. But then following that, we have all of your best artifact substats for your Isla, and overall the most important substat that you do want to prioritize the most is going to be damage increase. And this is quickly just because one of her main and most important buffs does scale off of her damage increase stat, so it is very important. But of course, additional defense and defense percent are as well going to be very important for increasing her shield strength and also the amount of healing and I guess damage as well that she can do. However, for the rest of her substats, it doesn't really necessarily matter too much what you go for, because you basically just want to prioritize whatever gives you the most total power, whether it be stuff like damage reduction, crit rate, crit damage, defense pen, all of that kind of stuff is going to be very good. Isla Wright's very best cores are very easy for you to choose, because it really doesn't matter too much kind of which ones you want to choose, because the only one that you do kind of need to focus on is going to be the body piece, and in my opinion the best one for you to choose is going to be Limbs of the Watcher, because once your HP is at 70% or lower, you can increase your defense by 6%, so this of course will benefit your Isla greatly because it can increase her damage, her shield strength, and also her healing. Then as for your best mind piece, the only one that Isla really does benefit from an okay amount is going to be the Eyes of the Watcher for the increase to your critical hit damage of your core attacks by 20%, which is something that she does use a lot and is one of the main focal points of her kit, so it's pretty important that you get something like this. With finally for the spirit piece, again, it doesn't matter what you want to use, because I mean I just overall use the Teeth of the Watcher because that's kind of just the standard spirit piece nowadays, so that's just kind of what I use, but you can just use whichever one you want to. After that though, let's talk about all of your best main and substats for your cores, and just like always for your main stats, you'll want to go for additional attack, defense, and HP for the biggest stats and also power increase. And like I mentioned before, damage increase is a very important substat for your Isla Wright, and with you wanting to get it to around 50%, you want to have all of your cores with the damage increase substat, so you can try and get as much as possible to reach around that 50% mark. Up next, let's talk about all of your Isla Wright's advancements, and she has some very powerful ones that increase your team's damage a lot, as well as also ones that give you a huge amount of quality of life, because for example, her A1 can basically say, using her second basic skill, which is Death Nova, can charge the power gauge of the second character on the team by 60% and also decrease the cooldown of their ultimate skill by 20 seconds, and this is something that is very crucial and 100% definitely needed. Isla's A2 also got a pretty nice change thanks to her recent buffs, where it can now increase your Dark Team members' attack by 5% of your Isla Wright's basic defense, so pretty damn good. Isla's A3 is also very much needed because it can basically allow her to have a lot more consistency when it does come to applying her strength, the magician, and also the Wheel of Fortune buffs that she does apply through her core attacks and also her support skill. Then after that we have A4, and this can give all of your Dark Team members up to a 9% damage increase based on the amount of Dark Team members that you do have, and also in Guild Boss that stack limit is actually completely removed. And finally, her A5 does a fantastic job of enhancing the buffs from her ultimate skill, and can also now apply a brand new buff called Death Shepherd, which increases damage by 0.2% for every 1% reduction to your target's HP, stacking up to a 16% damage increase. Then even as well, the other most important buff from her ultimate skill, Death, can now increase the entire team's damage increase stat equal to 12% of Isla Wright's damage increase stat, so again that's why that substat is very important with Isla. And it can also increase your entire team's ultimate skill damage by up to 32% now as well. When it comes to your Isla Wright skill level priority, it doesn't really matter too much which ones you level up specifically, because there's only really two skills that you can level up that benefit herself and also your team outside of increasing your Isla's damage. And the first one is going to be Cosmic Emergence as well as also Crossing Stars, because what these two basic skills can do is they can apply the star effect, and when you do level them up you can increase the amount of healing that the star effect does have up to 12% of your Isla Wright's defense. Then as for other very important skills that you can level up for your Isla, this is going to be Horoscope, her core attack, as well as also her ultimate skill, Arcane of the World or Death, whichever version that you're using. And these are both skills that she uses within every rotation that she does, so increasing the damage that these do can never really hurt too much. But finally, I definitely would still recommend that you do level up the rest of her skills in her kit that you can see right here in order to give her the biggest total power increase that you can possibly have. Your best team for Isla Wright is up next, and my preferred team in the Hunter mode with Isla Wright is going to be using Song Il-hwan as your main DPS as well as also Harper as your main breaker. And this is because starting off with Song Il-hwan, and when he's used in the Hunt mode, in my opinion, he is definitely better than Mini is by quite a bit actually, in my opinion. And also with the recent buffs to Isla now being able to increase your Dark Hunter's attack, and also with the fixes to your Song Il-hwan's A4, he can now do even more damage than he previously could do, which all in my opinion does make him the ideal Dark DPS for the Hunter mode, as well as when he does have buffs like Suppress, which increases his own damage, as well as also Ruler's Scale and even Ruler's Upgrade that can all increase his basic and ultimate skill damage. But then as for what Harper does provide to this team is basically just going to be the amount of break damage that she can deal, because she's kind of the only decent Dark Breaker in the game, as she can also apply the Pork Chop debuff that can increase the ultimate skill damage taken from Dark Hunters. And that's pretty much it. However, I do know there are other options out there. However, for game modes like POD and also Guild Boss, the Dark team does look a lot different, where you want to use teams like this that you can see right here. For all of your best shadows and especially your authority leaders, you do have a lot of different options that you can use with Isla Wright, because if you do need some more crit rate, then you can go for Egress for its up to 8% increase. If crit rate is no longer an issue for you, then you can use the likes of Bestie for the 8% extra defense penetration that she can give to your team. And even if you are deciding to use Mini instead of Song Il-hwan as your main DPS, you can even use someone like Skull for the extra MP and also skill mana point consumption decrease. Then finally, for all of the supportive shadows, again, there's many different options that you can use, so you can just follow all of these other different shadow setups that you can see right here. So finally, let's talk about how you can best use your Isla, and in my opinion, when it comes to her skill rotation, you want to start off by spamming her basic attacks until you've activated your core attack, followed up by her first basic skill so we can heal our whole entire team, as well as also grant Song Il-hwan some extra mana. Then after that, you want to use her second basic skill to activate the tower buff, so then you can apply the dark damage increase, followed up by her ultimate skill, which you can then end off her skill rotation by using her core attack to apply all of her main important buffs. And that will complete her rotation, so you can then follow it up by bringing your Song Il-hwan and then also your Harper, so they can do all of the things that they want to do. Alright, so there you have it. That is a complete and updated build guide to Isla Wright in Solo Leveling Arise. And overall, if you did enjoy this video or you just found it useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!